and welcome to July 10th, where we're reading 2 Chronicles 14 through 17. Now, this is going to pick up from Abijah's end. We pick up with his son Asa, and we go all the way through the first part of Jehoshaphat. Now, most of this ends up just being about Asa, 14, 15, and 16, I believe. Yes, they are all about Asa. Asa is the first really good king, or at least mostly. He does have problems, right? He's kind of like David. He's good mostly, but he has some problems. Asa is not quite as good as David, and he has maybe a little bit more problems than David, but still on the whole fairly good, probably better than Rehoboam for sure, maybe better than Abijah, at least, well, maybe not in the Chronicles account, otherwise maybe better. As you get into Asa in chapter 14, Asa is pretty faithful. He comes up against this large army of enemies. He knows that he can't deal with it, and so he prays to God, and God helps him out, and God saves him from that. Asa learns early on to rely on God, and that makes him a pretty faithful guy. In chapter 15, even, what he does is goes so far as to take a bunch of action against the idols of the land and make sure that the idols are not glorified. He cuts down a lot of idols. He doesn't get rid of all of them. He is not entirely faithful, but he does do a good job in trying to clear up the majority of it. And so we'll wait until his son Jehoshaphat comes around for him to clear up more of the rest of things. Asa's pretty good, but not perfect, and that's ultimately, unfortunately, what you see in chapter 16. Because in chapter 16, you have this really good streak of Asa that's going on, and then suddenly he just kind of quits, and I don't know why. I don't really understand all the circumstances, but suddenly he decides to steal God's money to pay off Syria, which, you know, he's had good success relying on God before and praying before, but right now he just pays off Syria instead, and that just makes him more content or something like that. Of course, the prophets come by and say, you know, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't be doing that. To which Asa attacks that guy. This is chapter 16 and verse 10. He's put the seer in prison because he's angry about it. And so God's prophets can't even reason with him, and ultimately God curses him with a foot disease. He won't go to God, he just goes to the doctors, and that doesn't fix anything, and so he dies alone and very sad. I'm not really sure what to do with Asa. On the whole, a pretty good guy, however, some major failings, and it seems like he wasn't willing to listen to God at the end, and so I really don't know where he ended up, but I'm not that hopeful about it. In chapter 17, you have Jehoshaphat, and he's pretty cool, but we'll talk about him more tomorrow, July 11th, where we'll be reading 2 Chronicles 18 through 20.